there are cities that should not exist, not because of what is above them, but because of what is below them. In Mexico, a pyramid revered by millions of tourists sits directly above a flooded cavern the size of a cathedral. Archaeologists know it is there. They have measured it with ground-penetrating radar. They have never reached it. The Maya sealed it off deliberately, and the passageways they used to access it are still blocked by stones they placed there themselves. In Syria, 20 Roman soldiers rushed into a tunnel in the year 256 and never came back out. When archaeologists found them 17 centuries later, their pay pouches were still on their belts. Their swords were still in their hands. They had not died fighting. Something in the dark had killed all 20 of them in under 2 minutes. And the evidence of what did it was found in crystals on the tunnel floor. These are 5 buried cities. Each one hides something the surface was never meant to reveal. City 1, Chichen Itza, Mexico. You are standing on solid ground. That is what every one of the 2 million tourists who visits Chichen Itza each year believes. They stand on the plaza in front of El Castillo, the great stepped pyramid that rises 30 meters above the Yucatan limestone. And they look up. No one looks down. No one thinks to. They should. In 2015, a team of Mexican geophysicists ran ground-penetrating radar beneath the base of El Castillo. What they found stopped the project for months while they checked the data again. Directly beneath the pyramid, sealed inside the limestone bedrock, sits a cenote, a flooded natural cavern at least 6 meters wide, filled with groundwater, invisible from the surface, and never accessed by any living archaeologist. It has been there since before the pyramid was built. The Maya who constructed El Castillo knew it was there. They built directly above it. Then they sealed every tunnel that led to it and left the entrance blocked with stones they placed themselves. No one has been inside since. The Maya did not build Chichen Itza near water. They built it because of water. The northern Yucatan Peninsula has no rivers, no lakes, no surface streams. The only permanent fresh water in the entire region comes from cenotes, sinkholes where the limestone roof has collapsed and the underground aquifer surfaces into the open air. Major Maya settlements required cenotes to survive. But for the Maya, these were not simply wells. They were mouths. Specifically, the mouths of Xibalba, the underworld, the realm of the death gods, the place where the sun went after it set each evening and where everything that died went to negotiate its return. Building your city above the mouth of the underworld was not reckless. It was the entire point. The sacred cenote sits 300 meters north of El Castillo, connected to the central plaza by a raised white limestone causeway. Archaeologist Edward Herbert Thompson dredged it between 1904 and 1910 and pulled up gold, jade, pottery, and the bones of over 200 people. But the cenote beneath the pyramid, the one the radar found, had no causeway, no dredging apparatus, no tourist path leading to it. Whatever the Maya deposited inside it has been sitting in the dark, underwater, for approximately 1,000 years. And that is not the deepest secret Chichen Itza kept. In 1966, a farmer discovered an entrance to a cave system near the archaeological zone and reported it to the authorities. An archaeologist named Victor Segovia Pinto was sent to investigate. He crawled through the passages, documented 157 ritual objects arranged across 7 separate chambers, intact ceramic vessels, incense burners, jade offerings, stone figures with the faces of Tlaloc the rain god, and wrote a report noting that the site appeared to be one of the most significant ritual cave complexes ever found near Chichen Itza. Then he ordered the farmers to seal the entrance. He filed his report. The records of the discovery were not circulated. The cave, later named Balamku, meaning jaguar god, vanished from the archaeological record entirely. For 53 years, it existed only in a document that no one seemed able to locate. It was rediscovered in 2019 by underwater archaeologist Guillermo de Anda and the Great Maya Aquifer Project, who found Segovia's original report buried in an archive and followed it back to the sealed entrance. When they crawled in, flat on their stomachs through passages so narrow that shoulders scraped both walls, they found the 157 objects exactly as Segovia had described them, untouched for over 1,000 years before Segovia, untouched for another 53 years after him. No one has explained why he sealed it. No investigation was opened. The man is dead, and whatever reasoning he had died with him. The objects are still in the chambers today. Archaeologists are still mapping the system. Most of the passages have not yet been documented. The same divers who found Balamku, working for Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History, were conducting a routine survey of submerged cenotes just outside the Chichen Itza archaeological zone when they found something else entirely. Resting on the sandy floor of an underwater cavern, preserved by the cool, oxygen-poor darkness, was a Maya canoe, intact. Wood that would have rotted to nothing within years on the surface had survived for centuries underwater. The canoe confirmed something that stone carvings and murals had only suggested: that the Maya were navigating underground waterways, moving through the cenote network not just on foot along the causeways above, but by boat through the passages below. City 2, Dura-Europos, Syria Spring, 256 of the Common Era. A city sits on a desert escarpment 90 meters above the western bank of the Euphrates River in what is now eastern Syria. It has existed for 550 years. It has been Greek, then Parthian, then Roman. It guards the easternmost edge of the Roman Empire. The last fortified position before the border dissolves into Persian territory. Its walls are thick with mud brick. Its streets hold temples, a synagogue, a church, a Roman bath, and a garrison of several thousand soldiers from at least 6 different cohorts. Within months, every one of them will be gone. No ancient writer recorded what happened at Dura-Europos in 256. No Roman historian named it. No Persian inscription described the victory. The entire account of the city's final days exists only in what was left in the ground when the desert covered it, which is why archaeologists call it the Pompeii of the desert. Like Pompeii, its destruction was its preservation. Unlike Pompeii, no one knew it had happened until the 1920s, when a British soldier accidentally kicked through a buried wall and found a painting underneath. What the excavations eventually uncovered was not a ruin. It was a crime scene. The Persian Sasanian army, under Emperor Shapur I, arrived at Dura-Europos, began undermining its western wall. They targeted Tower 19, 2 towers north of the main Palmyrene Gate, and dug tunnels beneath its foundations with the intention of collapsing the stone above and opening a breach. The Roman garrison responded the only way they could. They dug countermines, their own tunnels running beneath the walls to intercept the Persian digging before it reached the foundations. The two systems met somewhere under the earth between the wall and the escarpment. French archaeologist Robert Dumesnil du Buisson excavated those tunnels in the 1930s. In a space 2 meters high and 11 meters long, a passage so confined that 2 people could not pass each other. He found 20 bodies, 19 Roman soldiers, and 1 Persian. The Romans still carried their weapons. Their pay pouches were still buckled on their belts, the coins inside undisturbed. Dumesnil concluded they had died in underground hand-to-hand combat, that the Persian forces had overwhelmed them in the darkness and then set fire to the Roman tunnel to collapse it and resume their work on the wall. The fire explanation made sense. Crystals of sulfur and bitumen were found on the tunnel floor. Both are flammable. The Persians burned them to bring the countermine down. 70 years later, Simon James of the University of Leicester returned to Dumesnil's archive, his drawings, his photographs, his excavation notes, and reread the evidence as a forensic investigator rather than an archaeologist. What he found dismantled the combat theory entirely. The bodies had not fallen where men die fighting. They were stacked, 19 Romans arranged in a pile, at the point where the two tunnel systems connected, shields and armor layered with deliberate geometry, as though someone had built a wall of them. James concluded that the Romans had been killed before the stacking, that the Persians had moved the bodies after death and used them as a barricade to hold back any Roman counterattack while they collapsed the tunnel behind them. The question was how 20 men died simultaneously in an 11-meter passage with no room to retreat. The sulfur and bitumen crystals answered it. When burned together in a confined space, they produce sulfur dioxide, a gas that combines with moisture in the lungs to form sulfurous acid. In the open air, it causes coughing and burns the eyes. In an 11-meter tunnel with no ventilation, it kills in under 2 minutes. James proposed that the Persians had placed braziers of sulfur and pitch at the junction of the two tunnel systems and lit them the moment the Romans broke through. Unconscious within seconds, dead within minutes. The lone Persian found among the bodies, his armor pulled up around his chest, fingers hooked under the breastplate, was the man who started the fire. He did not get out in time. 20 men. Total darkness. 2 minutes. The bones of those soldiers remained exactly where the Persians left them, stacked against the tunnel wall, coins still in their purses, until Dumesnil opened the passage 1700 years later. After the city fell, Shapur deported the entire population. The buildings stood empty. Owls nested in the houses, rodent skeletons piled on the floors. The desert crept in over the walls, over the rooftops, over the tunnels, and covered everything in sand until the ground looked unbroken. If Dura-Europos buried its dead inside its walls, the next city made going underground not a last resort, but an art form. And they have been living there for 300 years. City 3, Matmata, Tunisia. Stand on the surface and look across the landscape of Matmata in southern Tunisia. There are no buildings, no walls, no rooftops. Just a pocked, cratered earth that stretches in every direction, like something struck it repeatedly from above. Circular depressions punched into the pale sandstone, dozens of them, evenly spaced, silent. From the air, it looks like the surface of the moon. From the ground, it looks abandoned. It is neither. Every one of those craters is a home. The Amazigh people of southern Tunisia solved the problem of desert survival, not by building upward, but by digging down. The method is precise and has not changed in 300 years. Select a patch of soft sandstone. Dig a central pit 6 meters deep using hand tools. Once the pit reaches depth, carve rooms horizontally into the walls from the inside. Bedroom, kitchen, storage, stable, each one opening onto the central shaft. The pit becomes the courtyard, the rooms surrounded on all sides. The sky is the ceiling. No roof is needed because no roof is wanted. Rain is rare. What matters is what the sandstone does to the air inside. Outside in summer, the temperature climbs above 50 degrees Celsius. Shoes left on the surface of the rock blister. Metal burns to the touch. But 6 meters below ground, in the carved sandstone rooms that open onto the shaded courtyard, The temperature holds at a constant 27 degrees. Every day, every season. No generator, no insulation, no machinery of any kind. The thermal mass of the Earth absorbs the heat before it can reach the interior and releases it slowly through the cold desert nights. The house regulates itself with the same precision as a thermostat, and it has been doing so continuously for 3 centuries. A woman named Najet still lives in one of these houses today, 6 meters below the surface, in a structure her family has occupied for 300 years. There is no running water. There are no plans to leave. When asked why she stays, she does not speak about heritage or tradition. She gives a practical answer. It is cooler, she says. It is simple. It is all that is important for the body when you sleep. In 1967, severe flooding swept through the region and exposed the underground settlements to the outside world for the first time at scale. The Tunisian government, alarmed, responded by constructing an entirely new surface town 15 kilometers away, Nouvelle Matmata, and formally asked the Amazigh families to relocate above ground. Most of them assessed the offer, went back underground, rebuilt what the flooding had damaged, and stayed. A small number moved. The majority did not. 9 years later, a film crew arrived. In 1976, George Lucas was in pre-production on a science fiction film that required a planet so visually alien that no audience would mistake it for Earth. His location scouts found Matmata, Hotel Sidi Driss, a functioning troglodyte dwelling converted into accommodation with 5 sunken courtyards connected by carved sandstone corridors, was selected without a single modification to its structure. The production dressed it with minor props and filmed. The interior of Luke Skywalker's childhood home on the planet Tatooine, seen by hundreds of millions of people across multiple films spanning decades, is a 300-year-old Amazigh house in the Tunisian desert. Lucas named the fictional planet after the nearest large town to the filming location, Tatooine. Tatooine. The hotel still operates. Visitors sleep in the same carved rooms. The Star Wars courtyard still bears the original set dressing. But the community that built it is shrinking. In 1967, there were twice as many troglodyte families living underground in Matmata as there are today. The knowledge of how to correctly excavate, reinforce, and maintain these structures, the angles of the pit walls, the depth of the room carving, the drainage systems that prevent collapse after rain, is now held by only a handful of elderly men. When they are gone, the knowledge goes with them. The craters will remain. The houses inside them will slowly fill with sand. The Amazigh went underground to survive the heat. In Australia, another community went underground for the same reason. But what they found when they started digging changed everything. And before we get there, hold that thought about Alexandria. A room that holds 3 civilizations simultaneously, discovered only because a donkey fell through the earth in 1900. We will reach it last. It will be worth the wait. City 4, Coober, Pedy, Australia. You are driving north on the Stewart Highway in South Australia. The nearest city, Adelaide, is 846 kilometers behind you. There is nothing ahead except red dirt, flat rock, and a road that runs straight to the horizon without a single curve. The temperature outside the car is 45 degrees Celsius. There are no trees. There is no shade. The landscape does not look hostile. It looks indifferent, as though it has simply never considered the possibility that anything might want to live here. Someone did. On the 1st of February, 1915, a 14-year-old boy named Willie Hutchison walked away from his father's gold prospecting camp. and found a stone on the ground. The stone was an opal. Willie's father, James, had led the expedition north in search of gold and found nothing. His 14-year-old son wandered off and found something worth more. That single stone on the surface of the South Australian desert started a rush that has never fully stopped. Within years, miners were arriving from every direction. Within decades, a town existed. The town had a problem. The town solved that problem the same way every settlement on this list has solved its hardest problem, by going underground. The soldiers who arrived after the First World War understood immediately. These were men already trained to dig trenches, already habituated to sleeping below ground level, already familiar with the particular silence of an earthen ceiling. The mining shafts they dug during the day became, with minor modification, the rooms they slept in at night. The method was identical to what the Amazigh had been doing in Tunisia for centuries and what the Maya had understood since before recorded history. Sandstone cut by hand holds a constant interior temperature of 22 to 24 degrees Celsius, regardless of what the surface does above it. In Coober, Pedy in summer, the surface reaches 60 degrees Celsius in direct sun. Underground, it is the same cool and quiet it was in January. These homes are not caves. The distinction matters. A cave is found. A dugout is built, a deliberate excavation designed to a floor plan, expanded room by room as resources allow, furnished and decorated and lived in as any house above ground would be. Residents of Coober, Pedy have carved bookshelves directly into their sandstone walls. At least one dugout contains an underground swimming pool. One woman spent 10 years expanding hers with 2 friends until it became large enough to open as a tourist attraction. Then the rest of the town followed the houses underground. The Serbian Orthodox Church was hand-carved from sandstone in 1993 by local volunteers. Its walls decorated with intricate saints, its windows fitted with stained glass that catches no natural light. An underground hotel operates continuously. Underground restaurants. An underground opal museum built into a former active mine. The drive-in cinema posts signs at the entrance requesting that patrons leave their explosives in their vehicles before watching the film. This is not a joke. In a town built over 250,000 mine shaft entrances, a number recorded by 1999, unexploded charges are a practical administrative concern. Coober, Pedy produces 70% of the world's gem-quality opal. Over 2 million shafts have been excavated across the surrounding desert in total. The town is simultaneously a mining operation, a civic community, and an architectural experiment that no one planned. In 1968, a man named Ron Guff was expanding his dugout when his excavation broke through a wall and opened into an abandoned opal mine on the other side. Ron and his wife Jenny did not seal it. They turned it into a museum. It is still open today, the old-timers' mine, sitting inside the wall of a private home that someone was simply making larger. Today, the population sits somewhere between 1,500 and 3,500, depending on the season and the opal price. Younger generations are leaving for cities. The surface is slowly reclaiming the town's attention, if not yet its architecture. But if Coober, Pedy is the newest underground city on this list, the last one is the oldest. And it was sealed for so long that the world forgot it existed entirely until an animal fell through the floor. City 5, Kom El Shoqafa, Egypt, September 28, 1900. Alexandria, Egypt. A donkey is walking through a western neighborhood carrying goods when the ground disappears beneath it. No warning, no sound before the fall. The animal drops straight down through a hole in the limestone and vanishes. The hole is 12 meters deep. The owner peers in. The donkey is gone. The neighborhood has been standing on hollow ground for 16 centuries without knowing it. German archaeologists arrive within the year and begin clearing the shaft. What they find at the bottom stops them from rushing. This is not a collapsed well or a forgotten cistern. At the base of the shaft, cut from solid bedrock, is a spiral staircase 6 meters in diameter. Its steps deliberately graduated, larger at the top and smaller toward the bottom, exactly as Roman funerary convention required. The staircase descends into a domed circular chamber the archaeologists call the rotunda. From the rotunda, tunnels extend in 3 directions. Each tunnel opens into further chambers. The chambers open into further passages. The complex drops through 35 meters of vertical rock across 3 separate levels. Tunnels, vaulted ceilings, carved sarcophagi, painted walls, and a dining hall with stone couches still set for a banquet that ended somewhere in the 4th century of the Common Era. Then they look more carefully at the walls. The catacombs were carved during the 2nd century of the Common Era, when Alexandria was a Roman provincial capital. The sarcophagi are Roman, decorated with garlands, ox skulls, and gorgon heads in the imperial style. The dining hall, known as the triclinium, is Roman in layout, built for the funerary feasts that Roman families held when visiting their dead. But the figures standing guard at every doorway, carved into every panel, filling every wall from floor to ceiling, those are not Roman. Anubis, the Egyptian god of the dead, stands at the entrance to the main burial chamber. He is carved in the stiff, frontal, hieratic posture of ancient Egyptian sculpture. He is wearing full Roman legionary armor. He carries a Roman spear. Beside him, his counterpart Anubis on the opposite wall wears the same armor and carries the same weapon, but has been given, below the waist, the body of a serpent. Above the entrance to the inner tomb, a Medusa shield, a Greek apotropaic symbol against evil, is flanked by Egyptian cobras wearing the Greek caduceus of Hermes, the Roman military standard, and the Egyptian double crown of pharaonic authority simultaneously. These are not copies of 3 different traditions placed side by side. This is a synthesis. Whoever designed these chambers took Egyptian death theology, Greek mythological symbolism, and Roman imperial visual language and fused them into a single coherent grammar that does not exist in this form anywhere else on Earth. The god of the Egyptian underworld is dressed as a Roman soldier because, to whoever commissioned this room, those were not contradictions. They were the same truth spoken in 3 dialects at once. No other catacomb in the ancient world looks like this. None. Move through the rotunda and turn left. A breach in the wall, made at some unknown date by some unknown person for some unknown reason, leads to a subsidiary chamber called the Hall of Caracalla. The floor is covered in bones, human bones, commingled with the bones of horses, stacked and disordered in a way that speaks of numbers rather than individual burials. In 215 of the Common Era, Roman Emperor Caracalla arrived in Alexandria nursing a particular grievance. The citizens of Alexandria had been making jokes about him, specifically about the fact that he had murdered his brother and co-ruler Geta in front of their mother. Caracalla issued a public announcement. He invited the city's young men, its military-age male population, to gather in a public square for a formal military inspection. They assembled. His soldiers surrounded them. He ordered the massacre. What happened in the square that day, and how many died, ancient sources record differently. What ended up in the chamber to the left of the rotunda has been lying there for 1,800 years. The 3rd level of Kom El Shoqafa is flooded. It has been flooded since the 20th century, when rising groundwater in Alexandria's western districts reached the lowest passages of the catacombs and filled them. Archaeologists pumped the level dry in 1995 and found what they expected. More chambers, more carved loculi, more evidence of burials extending deeper than the upper level suggested. Then the water came back. The pumping stopped. The third level is underwater again today and has been continuously since. Whatever the lowest chambers hold, whatever funerary objects, whatever carvings, whatever dead, remains sealed beneath the groundwater of a modern city built directly above them. The site is called Kom El Shoqafa. In Arabic, it means mound of shards. Every person who visited the catacombs in antiquity brought food and wine for the ritual feast held in the triclinium. Roman funerary custom required it. When the feast ended and the visitors prepared to leave, they broke their vessels on the ground. The pottery could not be taken back to the surface. That would have been impious, a contamination of the living world by objects used in the presence of the dead. So they shattered them deliberately. Every visit, every family, across 2 centuries of continuous use. The fragments accumulated. Year by year, the mound of broken pottery above the entrance grew higher, until the shards covered the shaft entirely and the ground looked unbroken. 5 cities, 5 different reasons to go underground: ritual, war, climate, survival, death. And yet every single one of them left something visible above the surface. A pyramid, a cratered landscape, a name on a map, a mound of broken pottery that eventually led someone back to find what was hidden below. The clue was always there. No one knew it was a clue. We call these places buried cities. That framing is backwards. The people who built them did not bury them.
Framing is backwards.
They buried themselves, deliberately, precisely, for reasons that made complete sense to them. The surface world is what gets lost. Civilizations rise on the surface, burn on the surface, are erased on the surface. The underground is what survives. The tunnel at Dura-Europos survived. The ritual objects in Balamku survived. The triclinium at Kom El Shoqafa survived. The sandstone rooms of Matmata are still holding 27 degrees today. You are watching this because you already suspected that the most important things are never the ones on display. Every place in this video was hiding in plain sight. The pyramid at Chichen Itza has been photographed by millions of tourists. Not one of them knew they were standing above a cathedral of water. What we did not cover today is what each of these underground spaces was actually designed to protect. Not the people inside them. Something specific. We will look at that next time. And the answer, in at least 2 of these cases, is still in dispute among archaeologists. If this video changed how you see what is beneath your feet, like it. If you want to be there when we go deeper, you know what to do.